Now, Italy was one of 22 EU member states which signed a letter calling for the bloc to strengthen its external borders to combat illegal migration, and Rome had also suspended the Schengen Agreement with Spain. For more on this story, we can bring in Manlio Graziano, professor of geopolitics at the American Graduate School of International Relations and Diplomacy here in Paris. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Giorgia Meloni's government suspended the Schengen Agreement with Spain, even though not one of those migrants who entered Ceuta made it to mainland Europe. What does Meloni gain from jumping the gun on this issue?
I think that the suspension from Schengen doesn't mean a lot because it's illegal, as the Spanish Prime Minister said. It's not something that is in the chart of the European Union. What is important for Meloni is essentially internal politics, not European, not world politics. Because there is a strange situation now in Italian politics, is the fact that Giorgia Meloni was elected as a far-right prime minister, but there are now two other far-right parties that are at the right of the far-right. One is the Lega, led by Salvini, who is a minister of Meloni's government, and the other one is a very singular character, as a former general or still general, I don't know exactly, who has created his own party, and this party is a right of the far right. So there are three parties in the same political space. And Meloni feels the competition of this party, especially the new one. The name of the general I was talking about is Vannacci. It's not very well known here in France on an international stage, but in Italy, everybody is talking about him, especially because I suspect, I don't have, of course, evidence, but I suspect that the leftist party, Democrat Party, is trying to use Vannacci against Meloni to divide the right front, more or less the same maneuver that Mitterrand made in the 80s using the Front National against the Chirac. So I think it's essentially a question of internal politics, which doesn't have international effect because, as I said, as Sanchez said, is totally illegal. And the very idea that they can stop Spanish people coming to Italy, it's pretty absurd because, of course, Italy doesn't have a common border with Spain. And how you can, if there is a travel by a plane or train, how you can distinguish a Spanish from a French or whatever. So it's really something that it can be explained, I think, only from the internal political landscape in Italy.
Of course, Giorgia Meloni is looking at elections next year, and the fact that you're saying she wants to appear more to the right than she is. Given that, is immigration and to Europe likely to remain a central theme going into those elections?
Yeah, I'm afraid so, because everybody is running to try to be the most severe against immigration in a moment when European countries, and especially Italy, since Italy has a very, very low fertility rate, so is one of the most depopulated countries in Europe, they need immigration. And by the way, Meloni is playing a double card because one is this front face that is showing of severity against immigrants. On the other side, Meloni herself made a huge legalization of immigrants recently.
500,000 work permits.
And a plan of, sorry?
Those 500,000 work permits to fill labor shortages.
Yes, exactly. It's on a 3-year program, yes. Of course, the people who are studying the problems of demographic problems and, of course, a shortage on the labor place are talking that these 500,000 are just a drop in the ocean, but still it's much more than the people that Meloni sent to Albania in the camp they built just to show in front of the camera. So cameras were not there when she regularized or she decided to regularize immigrants, but cameras were everywhere when they sent 10 or 12 people in Albania.
Now, Giorgia Meloni was seen as someone who could be a Trump whisperer when Donald Trump came back into office. But now that relation too seems to have soured. This after, of course, Italy didn't help the United States out over the war with Iran. Plus, we had at the last NATO summit, Donald Trump, who seemed to suggest that Giorgia Meloni during the G7 was begging for a photograph of him. At the NATO summit, they were nowhere near each other. That relationship has also gone. That would have also been her selling point going into next year's election.
Yes, yes and no, because everybody is looking what is going on next. Because of course, being friend of Donald Trump is not a good electoral card, especially after what happened in Hungary. I think that was the waking call for Meloni and other people of the right spectrum, because they understood that it's not very good to be seen near Donald Trump or J.D. Vance just before the elections. But who knows what happens in the next hours, days, weeks, months, because of course Donald Trump is totally unpredictable, and so it can probably become again a card to be played on the electoral game. We need to know one thing that abroad is very well known, a little less in Italy. Meloni is very intelligent, very smart, and she knows when it's time to show her friendship to Musk, Trump, Vance, and the alike, and when it's time to show her real face, which is the face of someone who knows how to lead a party, how to lead a country.
Going back to the crisis which we saw over the past few days in Ceuta, the Spanish enclave, we had far-right elements from the United States. We had the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance essentially saying that Spain was being overrun, even though that this was quite far from mainland Spain. Same thing with Reform UK over in the United Kingdom. Now that we have reports emerging from these would-be migrants themselves saying they were coerced by Moroccan authorities to make the trip to Ceuta. Social media is also being blamed, this from Moroccan authorities. Will we expect to see Giorgia Meloni reverse course on her quick acting to suspend the Schengen Agreement and to hit out at Pedro Sanchez for his lax immigration policies?
I don't think so, because this is, as I said, this is the card that Meloni needs to play due to the competition she has at her right. One thing is curious, by the way, on the topic in general, is the fact that that became a topic from used by the right wing. But as we saw with the communique launched by Meloni, the first to sign it was a leftist prime minister, the prime minister of Denmark. And Denmark has probably the stricter rules against immigration, against asylum seekers, and so on and so forth. And on the other side, the newspaper, the journal who insisted very much about the necessity of immigration is The Economist, and The Economist cannot be classified as a leftist journal. So the problem exists, and the problem is used by everyone as a political tool. So as long as it is used as a political tool, I don't think that it would be abandoned. And I'm curious to see what are the decisions tomorrow in the meeting, because I don't see very well, except the position of Sanchez and Spain, of course, and now they wanted to underline this difference. I don't see how the rest of Europe would play different about immigration. Even the new prime minister in England, in the United Kingdom, changed his positions about immigration and asylum seekers, because they think that the only way to find the votes is to be against immigration, which is exactly the opposite.
We'll see what happens with that
European
meeting
countries.
tomorrow. Manlio Graziano, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you for joining us on the program today.